right, we are going live. And this is, as I said, always the fun part because I never know exactly when it goes. It goes at the most inept. So I just start talking and we just kind of keep it going until I'm certain that we are live. And we should be live now. And of course, my family's coming home. So this is going to make this really, really fun, which means the dogs are going to be barking. And that's okay. We're going to just roll with it for a minute. Taking an extra minute. The kids are saying hi too. We're on a Facebook Live, so hello, join us.
I know. Well, isn't this the joy of most of us working from home?
It is.
And we get to just let all our viewers just know kind of what our real life like.
It is. And the kids said hi. So that was pretty good. All of the kids, four-legged, two-legged, it's all good.
That's right.
So, but welcome. Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. And it is that time again. It is time to excel, where we inspire and we ignite the possibilities that are for you. And I'm so honored here today because I have a special guest with me today, and it's Jo Heather Dodson, and she has agreed to join me today. And we're going to be talking about an interesting topic, and one that's probably pretty important to most of us. And that's about values. And I think, especially in today's world, I mean, it's craziness out there right now. And the fact that, that you're willing to join us, I'm just so grateful. And I'm looking so forward to you sharing with my audience here, because we just want everyone to excel. And I know that's how we've connected before, is we've been in some networking groups, and it's just wonderful as we have connected and become friends, because we have that same value structure. We want people to excel, and we want to share our strengths with them so that everybody lifts up and continues to move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an opportunity. Why don't you share a little bit more about you and
Sure.
tell our audience a little bit, just who Jo Heather is, or Coach Jo Heather.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a joy to be with you today. And I've been very much looking forward to this. I am Jo Heather Dodson. I live in the small town of Liberty, North Carolina, which is outside of Greensboro and Burlington in Randolph County. And I spent my professional career as a corporate and nonprofit communicator, and then felt called to become a coach. And so I'm a coach that works with individuals and entrepreneurs and business owners, very much like Janet, in helping people to move forward with action plans to kind of live into their life purpose, to have that continual growth mindset as individuals. And one of the most powerful tools that we use in coaching and that I can use with clients is finding out about their values. So that's why I'm excited to talk with you guys today. Yeah.
Very cool. So if we build the right foundation, I think similar to when I always talk about the money, you want to make sure you have a foundation built, because it's either on sand or it's on rock. So you're saying that your values are starting to build that foundation on that solid rock. So share a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned earlier, and we were kind of hearing, your life going on around you, and we've all kind of had to learn to live and to work in a different way this year, because things have been really challenging, whether it was the quarantine or financial unrest, which I know, Janet, you've been helping us navigate through that individually in our businesses. But then civil unrest. And even some people who are watching this now were through an earthquake, right? Here in the state of North Carolina, which is so bizarre and strange. Now we have all these storms, swirling around. So there's a lot that's out of your control. And so one of the ways, we're all trying to find ways to cope. And so, yes, as you said, the values as the foundation are a critical tool in part of that process.
And we need those tools. We need those tools to move forward with, because I mean, as you said, we're pivoting. All right, life as we know it is completely turned upside down.
It is.
But as you said, things that were in offices aren't always, and we're in the homes now. We have kids, we have dogs, we have different animals, cats walking around all over. And it's definitely been much more of a challenge. And I would say that's where you're really coming in to help, because some of that also involves with the mindset and kind of making sure that those things are in place, whether it's financial, whether it's not, it still revolves back to those values, which carry whether it's business or personal. And whether we like it or not, they mirror each other.
They do mirror each other, because what I want to be clear of is some folks may be thinking, oh, values are what you hold as right and wrong, kind of morals type of thing. But
Okay.
that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about what's intrinsic inside of you, unique to you, and how you show up in the world, what's important to you. And I saw this really cool quote. It said, values are the qualities of a life lived fully from the inside out. And so when you're with your personal values being so unique to you, you might think of them as characteristics or behaviors, but they're basically that guide. You mentioned foundation, that guide to a lot of your decision making. And again, how you show up in the world.
Okay, very cool. And thank you for Anna for joining us. I was looking to see if we have a couple of viewers with us. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for joining us.
I want to give a
Still
shout
learning
out
how to work all this out. So hey Anna, I know you're there.
Yeah, and I know that Peggy and Paula were spending a day together today, and they were both tuning in and going to watch together. So I'm saying hello to them.
Hello, yes, thank you so much for joining us. We are so glad that you joined us today, as we're just having a lot of fun and just encouraging folks. And so we thank you for encouraging us as we're continuing on this path as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you might be going, okay, well, what if I don't know my values? What if I've never taken the time to put a name to them? And so, what could happen? Well, you can get really swayed. We were talking about circumstances earlier, kind of swaying us, taking us off course, perhaps. And people can do that too, right? You can be very influenced to maybe go into a direction that don't align to your personal values. And so I'm going to ask you a question, Janet. Have you ever found yourself on a project that you really weren't meant for?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those tend to always end up being the ones that I struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've also found when you're saying that project, I got myself into a work situation where I thought things had been moving forward. And when I came to North Carolina, what I realized is I had done my part there. And it was time for me to move on. And when it was time for me to move on, it was amazing how the Lord put some things in my path that didn't give me a whole lot of options.
Yes.
And I think that was it too. And when that started happening, I realized that project or that part of I was on a different journey now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure other folks have fallen into that too, where you just struggle every step of the way. And it's a different struggle.
It is. And sometimes you were talking about it felt like a struggle. You might feel uncomfortable.
Internal, yes.
You might sort of feel like dis-ease, I guess is the word that comes to my mind. And other question that I kind of hold out for our viewers and for you, have you ever set a goal for yourself and you were shocked you didn't meet it?
Yeah, that's happened once, twice, right?
Me too. I mean, golly, how many times in my life have I set out goals and then
best of intentions.
Yes, yes. And so when we hold out our goals and things that we want to accomplish in life, when we make sure they align with our values, it is much more likely that we will be able to meet those goals or at least stay motivated, right? They might need to twist and turn a little bit. The goal might need to be honed, but we will most likely stay motivated. And these are just two examples of how our values can really make a big difference.
And not being in line. And that I think is where my values were not in line where I needed them to be.
Yes.
And that caused a lot of unrest. That caused a lot of chaos that didn't need to be there.
Exactly.
When putting those values back in perspective into the right foundational hierarchy or whatever you want to call it, that made a world of difference. The challenges didn't really necessarily change. It's how I responded to them.
Exactly. It makes such a difference when you can show up and show up fully in terms of what's important to you. It helps you say, well, what am I going to say yes to? What am I going to say no to? What aligns to my values and what doesn't? And to me, when I have that ability to say, oh, this is not a good fit for me, I'm going to say no. And when I know intellectually it didn't match my values, that I have a lot of peace about that no, because sometimes we struggle with saying no.
We do.
Mhm.
We want to help. We want to do it. We want to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like we've been saying, knowing your values helps you know yourself better and it helps you with your choices. And it helps you, as I said, stay motivated and energized. Because here's an example. I went on a health journey last year and I had a nutrition coach to help me and my life coach to help me along the way. And so here it is a year later, and I was kind of doing a check-in with my life coach because as a coach, I believe I should have a coach.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely.
um, I provide that service for clients, and then I receive that as a client too, have that experience. And my coach gave a reflection to me, and I was talking about the wellness journey, and she says, "Oh yeah, I hear you speaking from the voice of experience," and that really sparked for me because one of my values is wisdom and living from my learning and learning from others, which is what we're doing today.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important. And we never want to stop learning. We
Yeah,
always can be learning. And I encourage that. And that's, as you said, that's what we're doing here.
yeah,
This is our one way that we can actually share with others in a different fashion, as we're learning how to do it. And how do you, like, I know you would have to get clear on those values too. I mean, I think sometimes the life gets in the way and makes it really hard to clarify that. Is there any suggestions there that kind of help us to, how do we clarify them into what matters most with everything going around us?
absolutely. So yeah, because as we were promoting this event, we were telling people, hey, we're going to answer what it is, which is what we've just spent some time in. And now we
Mhm.
want to kind of talk about the how, right? This is the juicy
Okay.
part that you get to take away
Okay.
today. And so, I've kind of broken it down into three components for you today. And the first one is just getting to know them, like you said, clarifying your values. And for me, I worked with a coach, and that's what
Okay.
I do. And so I have a thinking partner. That's the way I refer to coaching because the answers come from within, right? We said intrinsic. These are naturally a unique part of me. And so I work with clients in an in-depth conversation. And in that conversation, we ask questions, we talk about scenarios, we look at how these values just naturally show up in that person's life. And that's the neat thing about working with a coach is because as a client, you just get to explore and you kind of talk about it. And then the coach can hear things and reflect it back to you and say, wow, I hear you talking about wisdom, Jo Heather. It sounds like wisdom's important to you. And
And
then
then
I
you
get
don't
to
even
kind of
realize it.
take that and go, oh, okay. And then we dig deeper. We get to dig deeper. So that's one of the things that really worked for me.
Okay.
But what I want to do is because everybody's here wanting something they can take away
Absolutely.
is like in this day and in this moment. So my number two part of getting to know your values is to carve out what I call think and journal time. And because the other thing about working with a coach for me, it gives me regular check-ins where I keep doing my personal development, my growth thinking, right? So I set that aside that time.
Okay.
So what you can do as an individual is set aside some time for yourself about yourself. Because how rare is that? We almost never do that. Never, never,
No.
never. So today, when we come off of this session, I want you to mark your calendar and say, I'm going to put some think and journal time in my calendar, at least 30 minutes, one time between this Wednesday and next Wednesday. And I'm going to give you a couple of questions I want you to hold.
Okay. So grab a piece of paper.
Yes, grab a piece of paper. And what I promise to do is after the session, I will post these also in the comments section. So if you
Awesome.
miss it,
Come
we'll
back
put
and
it in
grab
there.
it.
So, and here's another little tip. As you write in this journal, I recommend you write in pencil. And the reason that you write in
Awesome.
pencil is because your depth of understanding of your values can get deeper and deeper and deeper. And so I want you to look at it this week and then maybe the week after that. And then maybe you'll come back and look at it again. And there might be things you want to adjust or words you want to
Oh,
play with. And so using a pencil in this instance, because you don't have to get it perfect the first time you answer this
just got to
question.
get it down.
Yeah. So here goes. What are your foundational beliefs? What matters most to you? We talked about that earlier.
Okay.
How would others describe you? And then how would you describe yourself? We talked about energy earlier. So what energizes you? And then
Okay.
the last one that I'm going to mention today is when you're under stress, how do you respond?
And that's a big one, especially right now,
Mhm.
especially right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the other things, and I see Anna is talking about, journal time is so helpful for her. And so that's awesome, Anna, for sharing that encouragement for others on this session to know it's worth the time. It's a gift to yourself. That's what I call coaching, a sacred space. Well, this journal time can be your sacred space. It can be a gift to yourself to get to know yourself a little bit better and to put tools in your toolbox for life, right? They're yours. No one can take them away from you.
Not once they're in your toolbox. No, that's absolutely true. If they're there. And Gizzy agrees with us.
All right. I love it. I love
That
it.
was on cue. I don't think I could have done that if I tried.
Yeah, yeah. So now, if you're a person who, when I say journal, it sounds like there is no way I have time for that. Are you kidding? I don't have time for that. Then the third option I'm going to offer out to you today is to think about your must-haves. So as you show up in life over the next few days and you're reflecting on this, you might even get a sticky note. I don't have one here in front of me, but you might get a sticky note and write the word must haves on it.
So grab
Just as a reminder, yep, sticky note and write must haves on it. And so that's going to be your visual reminder to think, okay, what's a must have for me? And this is not about your basic needs. This isn't about having a roof over your head and food stability and this kind of thing. We're obviously talking about what's beyond that. There you go. Janet is on top of it. She's got her sticky note. So as you're thinking, so this is all about thinking. If you don't have time to journal, you're just pausing long enough to go, okay, what is a must have in your life for your life to feel fulfilled?
Okay.
Is this something to do with your faith? Is it something to do around adventure? Is it about security? And this is where, the money matters might come in with Janet, right?
The financial foundation, and that's what we're
Financial.
doing. And as I think they pivot so well together because they build on each other. You've got to have those foundations in place from your values to your money structure. And they feed
Exactly.
each other.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about what are my must-haves, maybe that's part of it. Maybe for you, a must-have is time outside. Like, you're inside on Zoom meetings all day long, you're homeschooling your kids, you're like, I'm about to pull my hair out. Maybe it's I must have, even if it's 5 minutes outside, what's a must have? And over time, as you start observing your must haves, there may be words that bubble up for you. Like I said, security, like the financial security, security might be one of your value words. And I think you'll just, see it over time.
That is really interesting. And that's true. And I think sometimes you got to take that break away. And you mentioned that going outside, we got that puppy and
Oh,
he's
yes.
forcing me. I mean, it's horrible. He forces me to go outside several times a day. But what I found is by going outside and taking that it's 5 minutes, 5, 6 minutes. It's not long,
Yeah.
but it's time outdoors, enjoying a little bit of sun, having an opportunity to, just take a break.
Yes. Right. Have a little break. And that might just be when you get some clarity of thought is during that break.
Absolutely. And that's what I have found has happened. I keep blaming him. It's all his fault. He hears that word OUT. I can't even really have to watch saying it because he looked at me. I'm like trying to be quiet. He's learned that word in 3 months.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But that does make a difference. And that clarity does come up, whether it is outside, whether it's, taking a walk, someone's taking a run, and what you just got to find that for you.
Yes. Well, I see in our comments, Peggy mentions me time, and I know for her, quilting is very important. And so it might be when she's quilting that, there might be some, she's reflecting, there might be words that pop up and go, oh yeah, this is really important to me.
Okay.
So kind of that outside time. Anna also says, outside time is important to her. And so for me, I have, as a person of faith, I have time in the mornings where I read.
Mm-hmm.
And I read my Bible, and I don't just read it to check a box. I read it in curiosity state. So when I read that, it reminds me, and this is part of what a word that came to me for values this year, because your values can deepen and shape over time. I'm not saying every year it changes. I'm just saying for me this year, it became evident that the word grace was one of my value words.
Okay.
I needed to hold grace for myself, grace for others, grace for the turmoil. And I realized that's how I was showing up, right? It wasn't just, like I said, values aren't necessarily a future state of what I want to be. It's how am I showing up and what's important. And so that was one of mine. So I just share that as a little insight.
Very
so I'm recognizing our time, and I have so much more to say. I'm just so excited to be with you guys.
Absolutely. It's all good. Gizzy and the dogs are even get better. They're all talking. It's all good.
I know. I just noticed that Paula, who is also joining us, says for her it's friendships. Vitally. So, you look at connection, relationships. What is it underneath that? That's such important value set. So this kind of takes us to from, as Janet was saying, clarifying our values. What are they? And this can happen over weeks and over months, that you might be playing around with different words that represent. And sometimes, instead of just a singular word, which I have on my website, yourchristiancoach.net, resources page. And if you go to that resources page, I have a values worksheet. Well, that's a list of words. Okay. It's not going to be all the words, and it might not be your words, but it could be a spark for you, because sometimes as you're honing that down, it may be sets of words, right? Where security might be one of the words, stability might be another word, and you might pair a third word, right? It's all unique to you. So I want to mention that as a tool for you. But as you kind of clarify, the next thing you want to do is to get deeper verification, which is what I'm talking about. It can happen over time, and look for adjustments. And so part of that is you want to ask yourself this question.
Okay.
Do your stated values and your lived out values align? And maybe they do in some situations, because you've taken time, right? And they've bubbled up from within. Maybe you're recognizing there's some situations where they don't align.
Not as much.
We are human. So I'll give you an example. So maybe authenticity is important to you. You feel I need to show up as my authentic self, and I want other people to show up in that way. This is how I approach the world. But you realize there's a certain group, whether it's a work group or a community group or a friend group maybe, that you gather with, and you realize you're not authentic. You're putting on a front of some kind. And this will be your chance to go, wait a minute, if authenticity is important to me, why am I doing that? Right? So you might want to ask yourself a question. What keeps you from living out your value of authenticity in that specific situation?
Okay.
So that's an example.
That's thinking.
Yeah.
So you may not like it, but it's a good thing.
Yeah. Here's another scenario that might help you. Okay, let's say one of your values, and I'm just grabbing some examples, is courage.
Okay.
And we know that courage simply means doing what needs to be done, even in the face of fear and discomfort, right? That's what courage is. But you realize that you've been avoiding taking action in a challenging work situation because of a certain coworker. and you're like, I'm so uncomfortable and I keep avoiding it, but I value courage. What's going on?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's slowing down and becoming more self-aware, which is a whole huge topic for another day, which I work with clients on self-awareness. But so as you narrow down on your value words or word sets,
Okay.
start holding them out for yourself and then going, okay, which scenarios do I recognize this sort of uncomfortableness inside? And maybe I'm not showing up in the way that is authentic. I'll use that word uh, to my values and to me. And then once you recognize that, you can't make a change until you know, right?
Yeah, you can't change something you don't know is there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And that's great. I mean, and I think it's so relevant, especially right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
really getting those values in line so that, because how else can we become our own authentic self?
Right.
We can't. We're blocked.
We can't. And now we have so much of our interaction is through technology. And so it's that much harder to connect and to live your values out because you kind of have this veil of separateness. And it can be very isolating, right? It can be very isolating.
It's
so
very
you've got
different.
to, yeah. So, Anna is commenting here. She said, authenticity is one of her values. So thank you for sharing that, Anna. Authenticity. Yeah.
And I think that's so important is to be you, and to be who you are, no matter what the situation is.
Yeah, because that word applies to whatever your value is.
Absolutely.
Let's say your one of your values is respect.
Okay.
And you hold that. Well, it's living into the value. What does that look like for you? And what does that look like for how you show up in the world? And that's being true to yourself.
Which
so, and don't, like I said, don't pick words that you think are the words you want to live into, that you want to know the real you, the real self. And because the more you know yourself, the more you can engage in the world in a different way. I see a comment from Peggy here. It says, being able to respect others when our thinking is worlds apart. So yeah, how do you respect somebody else when they're totally different than you?
Yeah, okay.
But if you value respect, you'll get to think that through ahead of time. And that's what moves us to step number 3, which is let your values be your touchstone. I mean, once you know your values and you have them as a guide, everything can change. It helps you get on course and stay on course. Again, I can't say enough. It helps you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. It helps you stay more motivated and energized. We talked about that early on. So this is the question, the 2 questions, and I can post these also if it'll help folks, that I want you to leave you with today, because part of the job as a coach is to ask you questions and for you to get the answers from inside. That's what a coach does. They don't tell you what to think. They say, oh, let's hold the space and let you think it through. So here you go. How can you keep your values top of mind as you make daily decisions, big or small?
Okay.
And the second question is, what will you do when you're pushed to make choices that don't match your values? So those are the 2 questions that I leave you with today to ponder. And as I mentioned earlier, I've got a values worksheet that can just spark your thinking and give you some words to consider that will probably lead you to other words that may represent your value. You can find that on my website at yourchristiancoach.net on the resources page. And also, Janet, I wanted to offer to your viewers, because it was such a joy to be here today, for anyone who wants to try out coaching with me, if you mention Excel with me, I will give you a 10% discount off of your first month of coaching, and you can connect with me through my website and be
You're so
happy to have
thank you.
a conversation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just getting things back in place is just so important. And it's really me has been very blessed to have you on this, on this time with us and being able to share. And it's just been an amazing journey. I'm so glad that you're part of it. And I'm glad that you're willing to come on and help to inspire and ignite those possibilities for our viewers that are here, because it definitely is our time to excel. And it takes all of us to figure it out. And by each of us granting our strengths and each of us, pulling those strengths together, the best part of that is then we all get to excel. And I appreciate you being willing, and I just appreciate the offer that you're willing to do. So guys, make sure you take advantage of that. Go check out the resource pages at yourchristiancoach.net. Check that out, see what words come to play, and how about posting them in here? Let us know what words are popping up for you. No matter when you're looking at it, just kind of drop them out there, because we'd be curious to see how that all works. And just to see what's happening in your life, and just to kind of give us an idea as well. So we appreciate everyone that has joined you. Thank you so much for those that hopped on with us. Anna, I see Ed dropped in with us, and Peggy and Paula, and we are so grateful that you joined us today, and we trust that you've gotten some value, and thank you for interacting with us, because it does make this so much better when we have interaction. It is definitely different doing these through virtual. But that's okay. We can still get there, and we can still interact, and we can still have that opportunity. So thank you so very much. Please go check out and take advantage of Jo Heather's offer. You get a 10% discount. Just mention Excel with me, and you can actually get a chance to meet her and work with her individually and see how you can get your values in alignment so that you can move forward in your life, in your business, and excel eventually, one step at a time, because that's what it takes. You got to build that foundation one step at a time. And as long as you're moving forward, you're going in the right direction.
Right.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with?
Just thank you for hosting this. You have an amazing consultancy and training program, and I have gotten to be blessed by that and to learn from you. And so it was such a gift and an honor to be here today. And I highly recommend our viewers to check out Janet's services. They are amazing. She is here with training. You've got to check out her training. She has different trainings, and you just check out her Facebook page or her website. They are awesome. And so it's just a joy to be here today. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you so much. And it's definitely been a joy. And I hope you guys take advantage of this opportunity. We all need a little help. And even we all need some coaches to kind of help us along the way. Because when you're in the weeds, it's hard to see beyond those weeds. And you need somebody to kind of help push them aside so you can see the direction. And Jo Heather's just an amazing friend and amazing coach here. So I do highly recommend that you get a chance to take advantage of that offer. And by all means, check out that resource page, because we definitely want to see some of those words that are coming out. We talked about authenticity. We talked about some grace, some respect. What other words are coming up for you? Drop them in the comments, because we'd love to just hear from you. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you next week. We're here every Wednesday at 11:30. Some weeks we have a special guests that come through. Some weeks it's training. And of course, the second Wednesday, always mark your calendar, the second Wednesday is our Lunch and Learn. I have been hosting these now almost a year, believe it or not. And it was my way of connecting folks. So we do a little networking in the beginning and the end, and we do a little bit of training in the middle. The topics rotate and change based upon what you guys are looking for, but it is definitely our way to connect. And that is my biggest goal with my Lunch and Learns. And that is the second Wednesday. So they're actually live. So we'll let you have the link. I'll pop it in there for It's Time to Excel. And then I encourage you to pop over on the second Wednesdays. In addition to that, we'll see you here next week. Take care, everyone.